Before we start, I would like to place a trigger warning. This is because during the video I will be talking about themes related to Elisabeth the Musical, such as suicide and death. Please make your own decisions whether or not you want to continue watching. The musical Elisabeth premiered in 1992 in Vienna. Since then, the musical has gone through changes, including new songs getting added, the order of the songs getting swapped, and of course the musical being translated into several languages, and even sometimes those translations may vary from production to production. One scene that has known many portrayals throughout the years is the Mayerling scene. In this video, I want to explore 3 different topics related to the Mayerling scene. First, how the scene portrays the real-life history it is based on. Second, how the Mayerling scene has been staged in various productions throughout the years since the musical's premiere. And thirdly, how these developments impact the scene and the musical's identity overall. During the video, I will be discussing different productions of Elisabeth that are relevant to the development of the Mayerling scene. I have chosen to primarily speak on productions I am familiar with, as I do not think it is wise to talk about productions that I have little grasp on, though I will be mentioning other productions when they bring up an interesting point to the discussion. What is Elisabeth? Elisabeth das Musical is a musical that premiered in 1992 in Vienna at the Theater an der Wien. The musical was written and composed by Michael Kunze and Sylvester Levi. The musical tells the story of the life of Austrian Empress Elisabeth, also known as Sisi. Over the course of the musical, the audience is introduced to Elisabeth and her contemporaries, such as her husband, Franz Josef, and her son Rudolf, as well as the character of Death. This personification of death can be interpreted as many things: an outsider, a lover, or a friend. That last label is applicable to the scene that is discussed in this video, as both Rudolf and Death use the word friend to describe their relationship. The first time Elisabeth's son, Rudolf, appears in the musical depends on the production. In earlier productions, Rudolf appears in the first act as a child wishing to see his mother. In more recent productions, Rudolf is included in the opening number, in which he sings that Elisabeth left him alone. As the musical progresses, Rudolf grows from a child into an adult, while tensions in the empire rise. After a discussion with his father, Rudolf reaches out to his mother, who refuses his request. The scene that follows is the Mayerling scene. Musicals and other means of storytelling are built on context, on what came before. In a musical's case, its story rests upon the scenes and songs that came before the particular point that has been reached. For example, a reprise works because the song has appeared before in the story. And in terms of context, when a story reaches its peak, the audience can only understand its effect and importance when they have been previously shown before what the stakes are. That is why it is important to understand where Rudolf is at in his story by the time the musical reaches the Mayerling scene. In the scene before his suicide, Rudolf asks his mother for help in the form of the song "If I Were Your Mirror." Towards the end of the song, desperation is getting to Rudolf. He claims he doesn't see a way out anymore, foreshadowing his demise. Elisabeth denies Rudolf, and as a result, Rudolf is left by himself and concludes that she has abandoned him. This is where the Mayerling scene begins. Though the scene has been portrayed in various ways in productions through the years, there are several elements that remain consistent, which are the characters of Rudolf and Death being present, Death and Rudolf sharing a kiss, Rudolf using a gun to shoot himself, and the scene always ends with Rudolf dying by suicide. And of course, there is the music. In the first act of Elisabeth, after the wedding ceremony of the imperial couple, a piece of music plays between the songs "She Doesn't Fit" and "The Last Dance." During this moment, Elisabeth sweeps across the dance floor with Franz Josef before Death makes his presence known at the celebrations. This same music returns in Act 2 during the Mayerling scene. In the libretto, the music is referred to as the Dance of Death rhythm when it appears in the scene in Act 1. And on the album Ronacher Musical Forever 2, the piece of music is listed as Todzeitwalze, which translates to Time of Death Waltz. There, it is used as an intro to the song The Last Dance as well. On various recordings of Elisabeth the Musical, the music is also referred to as the Mayerling Waltze, which means Mayerling waltz. Something similar can be found on the Dutch 1999 cast album, where it is featured under the name Mayerling Dance of Death. On the live recording of the musical from 2005, the music is included twice. First on the song Baalsaal im Schloss Schönbrunn, which also includes the song She Doesn't Fit. Later on the album, the Dance of Death rhythm appears again, under the name Mayerling, a name which logically more albums use to refer to the music and therefore directly connect the music to the scene, not necessarily to its meaning as a tune that predicts misfortune. With Elisabeth the Musical having its basis in real-life events, it is important to mention real-life context in this video as well, at least as a means to see to what extent the Mayerling scene showcases the real-life history. The Habsburg family used to rule the Austrian Empire, later the Austro-Hungarian Empire, that fell in 1918. Born as the third child and first son of Empress Elisabeth and Emperor Franz Joseph I, Crown Prince Rudolf was next in line to inherit the throne. As he grew up, Rudolf's political views began to take shape, with some opposing his father's ideas. On the 30th of January 1889, at the hunting lodge in Mayerling, just outside of Vienna, Crown Prince Rudolf and his mistress, Mary Fitzsarah, were found dead. Though many theories can be found, the one most agreed upon is that Mary and Rudolf were involved in a suicide pact, with her dying first and him second. Even though the Mayerling scene and the musical as a whole has changed throughout the years, the libretto still provides the basic structure and foundation of the scene that can be found in productions today. A libretto is a text that contains all the words spoken and sung in opera, operette, or any work of musical theater. In the text of the Mayerling scene, it is described how a group of death dancers dance around Rudolf. Then, a young girl from the group asks Rudolf to dance. The libretto refers to the girl as Mary. Rudolf and Mary dance until Death appears, who takes Mary's place in the dance. Their dance intensifies, and eventually a pistol lands Rudolf in the arms of Death. Death dances with Rudolf before pressing the gun into his hand and kisses him, after which Rudolf shoots himself. The scene ends with the bells of Death ringing. On the 3rd of September 1992, Elisabeth the Musical premiered in Vienna. When comparing the production's version of the Mayerling scene and the way it was detailed in the libretto, there seems to be one major change, and that is the exclusion of Mary. As stated in the libretto, she and Rudolf were supposed to dance together until Death took her place. Instead, the musical chose to focus on Death's and Rudolf's relationship, by having Death be the only one to dance with Rudolf. As described in the libretto, what follows is Rudolf receiving the gun and kissing Death before shooting himself. At first glance, it may seem the musical completely excluded Mary from the musical. Yet Mary does appear in the musical only later on in the reprise of the song Alle Fragen sind gestellt, which translates to All Questions Have Been Asked. She can be found in the background alongside other contemporaries of Elisabeth who were threatening to go under in the scene that is titled On the Deck of the Sinking World. This is also written in the libretto, where the following is stated. Rudolf, the man, shoots Mary Fitzsarah and himself. During this later scene, Mary is wearing the same dress as Death in the Mayerling scene, making the connection that Death is meant to portray Mary in the moment when Rudolf commits suicide. This same dress is also worn by the angels of Death in the Mayerling scene, who in turn resemble the appearance of Death. On the topic of costuming, Death can be seen wearing a blanket around his shoulders, which he then promptly drops onto Rudolf once he has dropped the man to the ground after his death. This blanket is also seen in the reprise of the song The Shadows Are Growing Longer, where Death comes to Rudolf's room at the Hofburg, which is framed as the funeral hearse that was used for burials of the imperial family. Though I couldn't find the exact meaning of the blanket, one can theorize that it is meant to resemble the friendship Death provided Rudolf with when he first came to him, or that it indicates the loneliness or rebellion that Rudolf used to feel, which is now dropped next to his body. The first Dutch production of Elisabeth the Musical has one distinctive feature that sets this Mayerling scene apart from the others I am mentioning in this video, and that is that this version includes a costume of Death wearing wings. The Angels of Death wearing wings is not unheard of when it comes to the musical's costuming. In more recent years, it can be seen at the concert tours, yet so far I have been unable to find another production where Death wears wings as well, blending in with the angels. The first production of Elisabeth in Germany was performed in Essen. This production incorporated an extra song for Rudolf, the Mama wo bist du reprise, which helped expand his character even more, which in turn provided audiences with more context to Rudolf's situation at the time of his death. Both the Dutch production from 1999 and Essen 2001 were produced by Joop van den Ende, which would explain the similarities in set design. And, just like the Dutch one, this production also exempts Death from wearing a dress. Instead, he wears the black coat he wears for the entirety of the musical. On the other hand, the Angels of Death do wear similar costumes of black wings in this scene. The 2003 production in Vienna revived the black-greenish dress for Death and his angels, bringing back the iconic look as well as the connection to Mary Fitzgerald on stage. In 2006, the musical Elisabeth was performed at an open-air theater in Thun, Switzerland. This production sets itself apart from the previous ones in many ways when it comes to the Mayerling scene. For example, the costumes and characters. Whereas usually the Mayerling scene is composed of Rudolf, Death, and an ensemble, in Thun they also added Mary and another man to the scene. While Rudolf chases the gun and ends up in Death's arms, a woman and a man can be seen slow dancing on the other side of the stage. At the same time that Rudolf shoots himself, the woman also dies immediately. This can be a reason to believe that the woman is meant to resemble Mary, with whom Rudolf committed a suicide pact. It seems that the man that is dancing with the woman is wearing a similar shade of blue as Rudolf in this particular scene. This could be done to draw resemblance to Rudolf and the man, because Rudolf and Mary were together at the time of their death, like the man on stage is with Mary in this version of the scene. Afterwards, the man carries Mary off, while Death carries Rudolf away. From what I can find, this is the only production of the musical in which Rudolf is carried from the stage by Death, as opposed to other productions where he is left lying on the stage while Death wanders off. It is in these years, around 2008, that the character of Death shifts to a more masculine appearance in the Mayerling scene. This is evident in the Belgian production in 2009 and the 2012 Vienna production. Both versions of this musical feature this different approach to Death, and the angels as well. Though this is not the first time that Death does not wear a dress during the scene, the Angels of Death are without their wings as well, and when grouping these productions together, they give the impression that the times for the musical are changing, specifically in regard to the portrayal of Death and his fellow angels. Earlier in this video, I mentioned how the Mayerling scene includes a couple of things that remain consistent across the productions, as reflected in the libretto and built upon by each production I have mentioned thus far. Except there is one production on this list that does not feature all these constant elements, and that is the Dutch touring production of 2025. This production is unique in the way it chose to go about presenting the story to its audience. It is gritty, dark, and a large contrast to the splendor of some other productions of Elisabeth. So what has remained and what has changed for the scene? First, all the productions we have taken a look at in this video have included Rudolf chasing the gun, as it is being handed from angel to angel until it eventually finds its way to Death, who hands the weapon to Rudolf. This time, Death does hand the gun to Rudolf, only in an earlier scene, so that by the time Mayerling rolls around, Rudolf is already in possession of it. Secondly, unlike the Dutch previous production in 1999, the wings from over 25 years ago are nowhere to be seen, in neither Death's costume or the angels. Instead, Death continues to wear the red coat he has been wearing the entire show. And in comparison to productions where Death and Rudolf are surrounded by angels of death, this Dutch production features an ensemble of painters. They stand close to Rudolf, as if wanting to capture his every twitch on paper, and to see if they can unravel what is going through his head in these final moments. Death, after stroking Rudolf's cheek, moves to the other side of the stage, far removed from the prince, as he watches as Rudolf kills himself. It is cold, perhaps colder than dropping Rudolf to the ground as he was shown in other productions. In this production, though the music that is heard is the Mayerling waltz, there is no dance between Death and Rudolf. And in the end, there is no kiss. Having now examined each of these productions and what they brought to the Mayerling scene, there is one more thing I'd like to discuss before reaching the conclusion of this video, and that is the kiss as a motif. In the previous section, I spoke of how the Dutch production of 2025 removed the kiss between Rudolf and Death, a component of the scene that had been there from the start, present in the libretto and the world premiere. There is a reason that this kiss was included in the musical since the beginning. It is an event that must happen. Without it, the story the musical wants to tell is not complete. The kiss is not just a kiss. It is a motif, which is a recurring element that creates a pattern, supporting the plot or theme of a story. The kiss, like a pattern, repeats itself multiple times during the musical. But why is this so significant? Why does the story not function the same way without the kiss, and without the Mayerling kiss specifically? As a recurring element, Death tries to kiss Elisabeth and Rudolf on several occasions. Death himself has claimed he loves Elisabeth, and even if it is not love, it is infatuation. With this in mind, the kiss could be framed as a romantic gesture. Death tries to persuade Elisabeth to kiss him, promising she will be free, promising her the same freedom she longs for. As mentioned earlier, Rudolf and Death call each other friends. Regardless, Death tries to kiss Rudolf multiple times, yet Rudolf always turns away from him. That is, until Mayerling. In older productions where Death wears Mary's dress, the kiss could have been used as a reference to the real life of the Mayerling incident, that Rudolf and his mistress were together at the end, and that the kiss was a kiss between lovers, one enacted by Death, who appeared to Rudolf as Mary. Now that we understand how the kisses could be perceived in terms of character growth, what makes the kiss of Death such an integral part of the musical? The Dutch translation of the song, Elisabeth, Open Up My Angel, describes the kiss's role perfectly. In the song, Elisabeth presents her husband Franz Josef with an ultimatum, and shortly after, Death visits her in an attempt to convince her to die. Death sings the following about it. Elisabeth, you will only rest when I kiss you and embrace you. I will comfort you, flee, and you will be free, and all despair will be over. Here it is established, in words, that Death's kiss is fatal. Still, even without these lyrics, it is important to actually show the audience what a kiss from Death means, so that there is no doubt what will happen to a character once they share a kiss with Death. You know, the whole show don't tell rule. Once we see Rudolf kiss Death and die, it raises the stakes, as Elisabeth's passing is coming closer when nearing the end of the musical, and all tensions in Elisabeth's character arc build up to the moment she kisses Death. The crescendo of the musical, the final kiss, can only deliver its impact when its effect has been established previously. Once again, context. What came before matters to what happens at this point in the story, and in this case, that is the kiss between Death and Elisabeth. It is the moment the musical has been building up to since Death first appeared on stage, and it can only make sense when it has been established earlier what its meaning is. And this meaning is explained to the audience by showing Rudolf and Death kiss in the Mayerling scene. Without Rudolf's kiss, the recurring element, the motif, of the kiss is lost, and with it, an aspect of Elisabeth's kiss is lost as well. Musicals, especially ones that have been existing for so long and worldwide, like Elisabeth, are bound to go through changes. These changes can be made for so many reasons, such as the culture where the musical is performed, what the current times call for, or when looking to renew the musical's ideas. For me personally, these changes and developments are one of the reasons that make musicals such an interesting medium to use when telling a story. Live theater is always changing, not just from production to production, but from night to night. Where one production's approach can shift a story, so can an actor's choice, and I, for one, absolutely love it. The identity of Elisabeth the Musical has changed over the years. Not just the Mayerling scene proves this, but also recent productions altogether. The Dutch 2025 production comes to mind, but also the concert tours and newer Hungarian production. They are distinctive and unique on their own, while fitting into the larger Elisabeth mold, and changing the musical's course simultaneously. Different productions focus on different aspects, and yet they each remain Elisabeth the Musical, just like the Mayerling scene. Though its portrayal may change and give the story new meaning, it will remain the Mayerling scene. And adding to that regardless of change, the Mayerling scene will stay the same, I have a little something to say about the music. The dance of death rhythm, not changing from production to production, is logical. No words are spoken, so translations have little effect. It is the song itself that acts as the backbone of what is staged. If you'd want to attach a more symbolic meaning to the music always staying the same, you could argue that this is because no matter what, Rudolf's story always ends the same every single performance. You can add multiple new songs to his storyline, but it will never change his fate, as by the end, he is bound to die by suicide in the presence of death. And coming back around to the kiss, just because a production chooses to exclude the kiss between Rudolf and Death, does not mean that Elisabeth's and Death's kiss at the end is completely without meaning. In the end, Elisabeth is still free the way Death told her she would be, only now without the symbolic intention of a kiss of death, and more as a loving gesture. And two things can be true at the same time. Death's kiss could always have been a loving gesture. It is just that only when Rudolf is kissed as well, a secondary meaning is given to the kiss. All in all, seeing all these different takes and perspectives on the Mayerling scene has proven that one story can be told in many ways, and can continue to define what the musical is about. This is about innovation, reinvention, and the love and care that is put into these musicals to deliver something new every time. If you're still here by the end, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I cannot express how happy it makes me that somebody has actually watched this. I loved making this attempt at a video essay, and I hope you at least got some enjoyment out of watching this. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Bye bye!